Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly interview show where I learn a little bit more about somebody else's perspective on movies. And I didn't realize how long it's been since I did this specific show with my buddy Luke, who I do plenty of podcasts on Scribe Magazine's podcast for. But Luke, thank you so much for coming on.
It's been a long time since I've been on a video, so happy to be here again, even though I'm not quite sure about the video aspect of it. But I'm always happy to be here and talking, movies with you, Shane.
It's all good. I imagine most people who watch these episodes just listen to them anyway, because
Please do, please do.
or you could just sit there trying to figure out what movies are behind my head because they're real.
That's
Uh,
what I've been trying to do for most of our podcast recordings, to be honest. I'm always like, oh, this is the movie, I've seen this, I've seen this, I've seen this.
because like the ones that really stand out, like my Ben-Hur box set is like right there
Hmm.
because like that's like a thick case.
Yeah.
But no, like it's fun. Like I have a Hitchcock one
Hmm.
right there. But anyway, before we jump into the questions, please shamelessly plug whatever you would like to shamelessly plug. I know you have some new stuff going on, so
Yes. So as always, lostinmovies.co.uk is where my old blog, where I've been posting reviews twice a week for one, two, 3, 4 years now. So yeah, that's still kicking about. And I have a new stuff, as Shane mentioned. I have a podcast now called Flicks and Chill, where yours truly, Shane, might appear, hint, hint, will appear at some point. The episode right now just dropped is with Rowan, who also is a Shane's friend. And
yes,
yeah,
Rowan and I also do a lot of things together, so
exactly. So, and as always, letterboxed in movies lost.
absolutely. And please make sure to follow the SPDM Crew Podcast Network because we're a bunch of cool people. And you can check out my friend Diana and I's new wrestling podcast, Ruthless Obsession. And yes,
Cannot
do I
wait.
do that voice every time? 100%, because we like to
Yes.
have fun and we're committed. But let's get things started with our second round interview here. Now, the first two questions kind of go hand in hand, but what's a
Mhm.
previously released film, Luke, that you have never seen that you're most excited to to
Mhm.
check out?
Yeah. As you know, Shane, as a fellow movie lover and a cinephile, it's almost impossible for me to answer this. So I went
Endless
with
watch list.
exactly like because again, I will repeat myself. I have a goal to watch every single movie ever released, kind of like you've already managed. So, like, I'm catching up to Shane's level. But for now, I'll just say all the Universal Monster movies because I have a Blu-ray set on my shelf and I've gone
Nice.
through most of the like original eight. I think I have like
Mhm.
three or two remaining. And because yeah, they are always fun. It's great to go back to 20s, 30s and see how many of the horror tropes have started, like in the
Mhm.
original Dracula and Frankenstein and the Mummy, all of these. But if like the real, I guess one movie answer, I kind of still been skipping on Lighthouse. And
Cool.
I've liked everything what the name is just escaping me, the director.
Robert Eggers.
Yes, thank you very much. And we will talk about him soon as well, actually. I've liked everything he's done, or at least enjoyed. I'm still kind of missing it because it's not streaming anywhere. And like, yeah, I know it's quite divisive. I know some people love it. I know some people are like, really?
Oh,
I know
I love
there's
it.
some sort of like a lot of farting going on. That's the only thing I know, and it's black and
Just be
white.
prepared for a lot of bodily functions of
Okay.
varying degrees. Let's be real here. These are two men
Mm-hmm.
together
Mm-hmm.
on an island in a lighthouse.
Yep.
They're gonna just let it all hang out, and they
Mm-hmm.
sure do. As things go completely unhinged. Oh, I
Yeah.
love The Lighthouse. I am such a big Robert Eggers fan,
Me too.
and The Lighthouse is such an interesting parable for isolation and
Mm-hmm.
how it incorporates a lot of mythology and
Mm-hmm.
like sea like folklore and stuff like that. Oh, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Robert, if you need somebody to do something that's folk horror, or like based off stuff like that, there's only one guy to ask, and it's Robert Eggers.
And
Now,
they've already asked him whether he would ever make a movie, in a current time, because all of his movies are kind of in the past, and
yep,
he was like, no way, no way. I'm gonna stick with the past.
good. I don't want to see anything from
Oh
him.
yeah,
It's not that. It's like basically him and Ari Aster, like the two like prototypical A24 type horror directors. I'm like,
yep,
they're both giving me very different things, and I want both of them. So we got it.
exactly.
And I have a sinking feeling I have an idea of what you were alluding to. But my next question is, what's an upcoming film you're most excited for?
So the upcoming releases for 2024, at least, I've gone through the entire year actually, and obviously we know there's quite a few, but I like four stuck out. So let's get the obvious and the closest to us out of the way. Madam Web. No, I'm just joking. No, Dune 2 of like
Mhm.
who like if are you even a cinephile if you are not excited for Dune 2? It's the kind of like, if the tree falls in a forest and nobody's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound kind of question.
Mhm.
So we don't have to spend too much time on that because everybody's excited for that. I kind of am excited for the Fall Guy. Like I feel like because I had a lot of fun with Bullet Train. Funny enough, the
Mhm.
4K of Bullet Train just arrived yesterday, so it's on
Nice.
my shelf now. And the Fall Guy, as long as it's actually fun, not taking itself too seriously, and Emily Blunt with Ryan Gosling having blast, I feel like it will be a good time. I
Oh,
hope it's gonna be
it
good
definitely
time.
looks like it's not taking itself too seriously. So,
Exactly. And again, as a person who unabashedly, unashamedly, like, no shame whatsoever, gave Bullet Train 5 out of 5. I'm there. I'm there.
mhm.
It seems fun, and I hope it's gonna deliver. Quiet Place Day One, I wasn't as excited, and then Lupita Nyong'o got cast, and I was like, I'm seated.
Mhm.
Like I've actually watched every single feature she's in, like, or she's ever appeared. So I'm craving for new Lupita Nyong'o movies. And I feel like even though she's an Oscar winner, which is kind of what I'm about to say, kind of might sound weird, I don't think we've seen her peak. And that's something that always intrigues me. Like she's great in many of her movies. Like she's always like delivers. But I don't think we've seen her peak, and that's something that intrigues me. And that her being in that universe, and from what I have not actually watched trailers because I try to stay away from trailers anymore,
Mhm.
now. So I haven't actually, I know there's a trailer, I haven't watched it, but from what I understand, she's the main character.
It definitely
So
seems that way based off of I saw the trailer before Madam Web.
yeah.
So,
hmm I'm prepared when I actually see Madam Web. I am prepared. That's the only really way how I watch trailers anymore is
mhm.
in a cinema before other movies. So yeah, and Lupita Nyong'o, I'm there. Like everything she is in, I'm there day one. And so yeah, that was a clever decision movie to cast her.
Mhm.
Lastly, and this is what I was hinting at, Nosferatu. That
Yep.
stick out to me because it's Robert Eggers, great cast, and just him, re kind of I don't know do we know whether it's like a remake or his reimagining of Nosferatu because I don't.
I'm guessing it's I think it's a remake.
Yeah.
It seems that way because
hmm
we had the original,
hmm
then we had the Werner Herzog
I
version,
watched that like a month ago actually. That was
mhm,
interesting.
and then a meta reimagining with Shadow of the Vampire, which I love. Love that
I s-
movie.
I still have to watch that, but I heard a lot of good things about that.
It's so darkly funny. I love it.
Mhm.
And then this, which I
Mhm.
imagine this is going to be horrific and terrifying.
Like
So,
me too, and of course it's Robert Eggers' movie, so Anya Taylor-Joy is there,
yep.
and kind of like Lupita Nyong'o, I'm all in what she's in. Like like Furiosa is coming out, of course, this year as well.
And
So
apparently she's in Dune.
oh yeah, that was a big news yesterday, isn't
Yeah.
it? Like how did you manage to keep that silent? Like that's probably must be some sort of almost cameo role then. I
They
don't
pulled a
know.
Matt Damon from Interstellar.
Imagine that.
It's just
Just
like,
the entire Dune 2 like hinting at this one character and suddenly wild Anya Taylor-Joy pops out like, whoop, it's
um,
me.
yeah, it sounds like she has a greater connection to maybe the third film,
I
Dune
see.
Messiah, that they want to make. So
Hmm.
I don't know. It's there's definitely a lot of interesting films coming out this year,
Hmm.
and good for Anya Taylor-Joy. So she's in Dune Part Two, Furiosa, and Nosferatu.
Yep,
She's
yep.
gonna have a year.
Hopefully.
But I'm definitely excited for Nosferatu, especially.
Hmm.
Merry Christmas
Oh yes, Merry
coming out
Christmas
on
indeed.
Christmas Day.
Yep.
Very interesting choice. Now, a lot of people have a lot of feelings about remakes, as we were
Hmm.
just talking about one.
Hmm.
What's a film that you actually feel like should get a remake?
So the way I see remakes is we shouldn't remake great movies. We
Hmm.
should remake maybe movies with like that maybe didn't deliver on the premise or like were underwhelming or maybe they might need like a bit of an update. So I picked two movies for different reasons altogether.
Okay.
First one is Rambo Last Blood. And my reason for that is I know it's not gonna happen, but like as a Rambo fan who grew up, like Rambo, like First Blood, we've talked about it on Shane's podcast, shameless
Mhm.
plug,
Yeah.
and how great of a movie that is. And it's a big part of my childhood, a big part of my growing up as a cinephile, believe it or not. And for somebody as me, Rambo Last Blood, it wasn't the send-off I don't think anybody imagined. Like, just Rambo goes to Mexico, and then okay. Like I don't understand anything about that movie. It wasn't bad movie. It was just so average, and it just didn't go or deliver on anything emotionally, and it just felt very generic. And
Hmm.
I like in this like dream remake, we would go back to 2018 or so and just have it one more time and maybe I don't know, bring back somebody from the original. Maybe, the sheriff's son from the original goes up against Rambo one last time, or something like that might be tied with the original. And actually, like, I don't want a happy ending. I don't want a sad ending. I don't care about like the details. I just don't think the Rambo Last Blood delivered on the gravity of what the first one was. And of course, the franchise kind of then became about like, how many people can St Sylvester Stallone shoot in 1 minute?
They
So
broke
I
that record
understand.
in Rambo, the fourth one.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But technically
Yeah.
they broke that record on Hot Shots Part 2.
I just feel like I remember when they originally announced Last Blood, it
Hmm.
sounded like, and it seemed like, from what I understood, they were going to he was going to go head to head with like some kind of fundamentalist group, like
Hmm.
militiamen or something like that.
Hmm.
And I feel like that would have been a very interesting juxtaposition as like a war veteran
Hmm.
getting in conflict with like, this is our country
Yeah.
kind of thing. And they just turned into a really generic cartel story. The
Hmm.
only thing that I liked about was like they made like John Rambo was ruthless.
Yes.
Like he was brutal. And I'm like,
Hmm.
holy crap. But it is what it is, and yeah, we're just gonna have to sit with it. Unless they make another
Pretty
one,
much.
which God.
I cannot imagine that. Like, unless he's got unless somehow there's gonna be a son or a daughter, like, that the Rambo might train. And like, there's no way, like, Stallone still looks great for his age. Don't get me wrong. And he would still kick my ass, easy. Like, I am no challenge for this man, even though he's like 70 something. However, like, for no, I cannot imagine him doing Rambo. And to be fair, even in 2019 he like it looked rough at times, but again the movie just yeah like it was totally average, which it's fine, but I just wish it was something more emotional, much more of a payoff, much more of a nicer send off to this like iconic character.
Yep.
And my second choice, and I know I'm gonna piss off some people because this is considered a comedy classic from the 60s. It's a mad, 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 mad world. And hear me out. It's I don't necessarily want to remake it just because I thought it was average. Like I have my opinion, but it's fine. It's my opinion. I'm wrong. People are correct. I'm wrong. However, I would like to remake it, take the concept, because I think where maybe the movie got lost a bit is there were so many great comedic stars of that era came to do one movie and one over the top gigantic movie. So what if the concept stay the same? What if we made a movie with the comedy brains of this era and actors and writers? And, Ryan Gosling would have popped up, like because he's got the comedic chops.
Mhm.
And Jason Bateman would have been there. And and all these Rachel McAdams is funny and underrated. Like they would be
You
like,
definitely
a
get like
pure
the Seth
comedians.
Rogen crowd, the Jason
Of
Segel
course.
crowd.
It's kind of
And
like this, yeah, this is the end. Kind of like this is the end, but make it 10 times bigger. Like anybody who's been in comedy for the last like 20 years, they would have like at least a cameo, right? Something like It's Mad, Mad, Mad World, 2.5 hours. Just make it with people of today. So it's not even a remake, it's more about the concept of that, the idea of that.
isn't that like they didn't go as big a scale, but like Rat Race is the same basic idea.
Yeah,
And
that was quite star-studded.
yeah, and it's like one of those kinds of things. There's like you could do a lot with that. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you'd have Will Ferrell.
Mm-hmm.
You basically have the whole
Tina
Anchorman
Fey.
crew.
Yeah, no, yeah, Amy Poehler,
Yep.
all of them. And again, like, yeah, Rat Race is a great example because to me, that's a great movie. Like, I grew up watching that movie. Like,
Mhm.
yes,
So that would be it's a mad, 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 mad idea,
it is.
Luke, and they should totally do it. And you know who could definitely make a 2.5 hour comedy? Judd Apatow. So
Yes,
you need a comedy be 2.5 hours. There's only one man, Judd Apatow.
that's true.
Now, what is your fondest memory of going to the movies?
I have two examples or memories. First one would be when I went to see first and second Harry Potter movies in a cinema because I grew up when these movies were coming out. First when the first movie came out, I was 10. So the right age for that story, the right age for everything that's happening. So I still remember being just in awe because I did read the book after the movie, the first one. But after the first movie, I read the first 3 or 4 books. I think they were already out. And yeah, so by the time the second one rolled out, I was ready, even though the second one has the spider sequence. And,
Hmm.
as a 12-year-old or 11-year-old boy who is not really keen on spiders, seeing massive, giant fucking spiders on a screen, I'm like, I was scared, but my sister, who's a proper like arachnophobic, she was proper crying. Because she's a year younger than me, so she would have been 10.
Mhm.
And she was like proper crying. She would still watch, but she was because yeah, she is proper. She cannot handle even like a tiniest of spiders. So imagine on a big screen seeing those giant, giant spiders. But again, Harry Potter is my soft spot, so that would be one. However, 2015, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. I went to see it midnight, just before. So blank slate, no people on the internet having opinions about, if Rey is Mary Sue. No preconceived notions, nothing. And I still remember I had this awkward seat because it was fully packed theater. It was a
Mhm.
midnight screening, but it was
Yep.
fully there was literally no seat. So I was lucky enough to actually get a seat. I think there were actually two screenings where I live, which is unheard of. And we are waiting because some people, of course, had to get a popcorn and a Coke and stuff like that. So the movie was delayed by 20 minutes because they were waiting for everybody to be in their seats, right? Because it's a giant movie. It's a
That
Star
would
Wars. It's
bother
packed.
me so much.
Yeah, they bored me too. However, when we were waiting, somebody around, like I think it was in the row, next to me or in front of me, started to hum the Star Wars theme song, like, doo, 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 and just like, and we all kind of join in, and it was this almost like magical. It sounds cliche as fuck, and it sounds cheesy, but it actually happened, and we were all like humming the Star Wars theme song, and it was a great time. And I was like, this is what movies should be about.
Hmm.
Not the, obviously Star Wars is now linked heavily with this toxicity and like,
Yep.
fandom being just ugh. So it's very hard for me to say I'm a Star Wars fan. But yeah, like that one place that was just awesome.
I remember my screening for Force Awakens. My brother was dressed head to toe as Kylo Ren.
Nice.
He got like a $250 cross guard lightsaber.
Hmm.
So like it was legit. It was actually metal.
Hmm.
And he couldn't wear the mask because you're not allowed to wear masks in an AMC, at least in the United States.
Oh, I see.
Because we
Hmm.
can't have nice things here. And he wound up getting in a lightsaber battle in the middle of like the hub of the AMC with a Anakin and an Obi-Wan.
Nice.
I'm just like, yep, this is special. And then there was multiple fights in the parking lot, people trying to get out, so that was fun too.
Yeah.
But I remember Avengers 2012.
Oh.
We got there 2 hours beforehand. It was
Hmm.
10 o'clock. We got our seats because there was like 15 of us. This
Hmm.
was all my friends from college, my sophomore year. And a whole crew dressed head to toe, cosplayed as the six Avengers, walked in, and the whole entire theater got up and started clapping. It
Hmm.
was like that Star Wars was like humming moment, like that reminded me of that. Just
Yeah.
like the whole entire place lost it when the Avengers came in.
Hmm.
But those are special kinds of moments. And I was also a Harry Potter kid, and they
Hmm.
always came out in November, my birthday. And
Yeah.
I always went for my birthday until they're like, we could make more money in the summer.
Yeah.
Take that away from me. I was
Hmm.
personally offended. Now, Luke, what's a film that definitely exceeded your expectations?
So this was a harder question than I realized because there are so many. So yet again, so many. So I'm gonna shout out four. And the way I went about this question, I'm gonna shout out more obscure movies I wish more people would have seen.
Okay.
So the first one, the most recent one would be this Italian movie called The Roof. Simple, from 1956. And it's a very simple hour and a half movie about post World War II Italy, how people struggle to live and they live in an absolute like poverty. And there was apparently a law or something where if you managed to build a house, like a tiny shed, we're talking like a shed,
Mhm.
overnight, and it has a roof, you could you can actually claim the ground or something like that. So it's basically just the idea of this newly wed couple who has nothing to them, nothing to their name, because again, post World War II Italy struggled, as most of European countries post World War II. However, so it's a simple movie that follows these two people and just the tribes and tribulations about how they're trying to build this one shed, not even a house, shed for
Mhm.
overnight, and how much, they go through. And it was touching, it was simple, but it was kind of beautiful. It was just, I love movies that are just simple, straight to the point, kind of raw. I don't know how best to describe it. So
Mhm.
that struck a nerve with me. The second older movie is The Phantom Carriage from 1921.
Nice.
It's because of our buddy Rowan was raving about it. I had to look it up. It's free on YouTube, but you
Mhm.
should definitely buy a Blu-ray after you watch it. It's a great movie that influenced the not even just the horror genre because it's a old Swedish horror movie from 1921. It's also like influenced cinema. And if don't listen to me, listen to Ingmar Bergman and Charlie Chaplin, who both call this one of one of this best movies of what they've ever seen. And those two are pretty heavyweight people to
Yep.
recommend the movie. The third one would be Queen of Hearts, which is a 2019 Danish movie about this social worker, if I remember correctly, like psychology social worker, and they adopt a son. No, wait. No, sorry. They don't adopt the son. It's been a while. I'm trying to remember. Th she marries this guy and he's got a son. Yeah, he's got a son. So she meets him for the first time and something happens. And then you kind of think you know where this is going. And then the movie kind of pulls the plug in the last third and it twists something completely into like a different thing where it's not some sort of twist, oh, he was dead the entire time. Nothing, no, nothing outrageous. This is a drama about a person in a certain position of power and how once you have a certain lifestyle, what are the lengths you're willing to go to keep it that way, and
Mhm.
how you can abuse how you represent this one thing, but you can go totally against what you're supposed to represent. I love that movie. And the last one, it's by a film. If I tell you Park Chan-wook, the director of Old Boy and
Mhm.
all those great movies, many have not seen or not talking about Joint Security Area from 2000. So when I saw that on a movie, I was like, well, he directed it. I'll watch it. So I watched it, and I was like, that kind of seemed like a comedy because it even had like a comedic, like almost heading.
Mhm.
And it's holy shit. It's so much more than, and I almost don't want to even discuss it. Like, I'll say this. It's about this security area that guards the border between South and North Korea. And that's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
Because the less you know about it, the more you I was hooked and the ending just kind of destroys you. It's so fucking great. Like for him, he's got such a unique and great filmography. I could argue this will might be his best movie, and I love Oldboy.
That's really impressive. And I've definitely, The Phantom Carriage is definitely one that I want to check out. I've
Hmm.
heard a lot of great things. I've seen like stills from it. It's just like looks pretty legit,
Yeah,
early cinema. And well, if they're not already on my watch list, some things to add to my watch list as well.
I know.
For all of you out there too. Now, I don't know how much of a reader you are, Luke, but what's a written work that you would like to see turned into a film?
Hmm. I used to read quite a lot when I was younger. I was one of those kids who would go to the library and would borrow, let's say, 10 books, and within a month when they had to return them, I would read most of them, if not all. So but now I focus more on movies
Yep.
and stuff, but I'm trying to get back to reading. So my jokey answer was the Bible, because let's do it, let's fucking do it. Because
Hey,
there
you
are
wouldn't be
some
the
wild.
first one to actually say
Exactly.
that as an answer, so.
No, I know. But to be fair, there are some wild stories. And if you actually read how Bible imagines angels, they are not the angels we think of. They are really creepy creatures. If you
Yep.
actually read the description of angel, there are some artistic renditions nowadays of how biblically, if you Google biblically accurate angel, you might be like, oh, damn. But my real answer, I was really struggling to be honest, because I haven't read like a decent book in a while. However, if I tell you the book Gunseller from 1996, does it ring a bell by any means?
Gun seller. I
Hmm.
don't think so.
Well, it's a story that's about a guy who kind of stumbles upon like this, organization that sells guns. And if I tell you, it was written by Hugh Laurie, Dr. House, the actor. Yeah,
Interesting.
actually, yeah, I know. That was my selling point on that book. I've read it a long time ago, so I'm a fuzzy on the details, but from what I remember, from my experience, I remember it was funny, it was witty, and again, it's a regular old Joe who
Mhm.
gets kind of entangled in this gun selling world, and he suddenly almost has to be like not a secret agent, but basically, fighting for his life because quite a few organizations are coming after him. From what I remember, it was a great book, and I would, it's not a new concept, but if done well, it could be a fun concept to play around with. Just like an actual regular Joe. If you cannot cast somebody like The Rock or Jason Statham. That wouldn't have worked. you know.
Yeah.
So that would be my answer for that.
Ask you, Lori.
Yeah.
There you go. Now, I know we talked a little about avoiding trailers earlier,
Hmm.
but sometimes those trailers just get you so hyped.
Yeah.
What's your favorite movie trailer?
I have three answers for this, and
Okay.
from all of them, you will see or you will understand. I watch trailers, but in, like now they don't hit me as much.
Hmm.
So my top three, I could just think of off the top of my head would be The Dark Knight. Like there was one trailer with Heath Ledger and all of that. It was like I think it was like a minute and a half, and it was just perfectly cut. It was before, funny enough, my second pick, Inception, revolution, kind of revolutionized trailers where boom.
Wong. Yeah.
And now I kind of miss the, even though I love, again, it's on my list. Inception is. But I kind of miss the trailers before the Inception, like a bit, like where like the Dark Knight.
In a world.
And yes, even though it wasn't in the world, but it was just from it was just the theme of the movie and just from Christopher Nolan. Even back then, it already said from Christopher Nolan because he
Yep.
already done Prestige, he's already done Batman Begins, all those movies. And my third pick is, and this might be a weird one, Tron Legacy. There is a trailer that utilizes the Daft Punk music so well and showcases the visuals of that movie
And
so
got us all hooked.
brilliantly. Exactly. And I'm still a defender of that movie. It's a shame. Like, did you know it still hasn't been released or even converted to 4K? You can only buy a Blu-ray of that movie, which to me, if there's a movie you need to have in a 4K, Tron Legacy is that.
That's
Like,
definitely one of the like that should get a 4K because it looks immaculate. It's
and
incredible.
I actually saw it in a 3D, like with the way you're supposed to see it, with the subtitles. And well, because that was back when I'm not from English speaking country. I'm from originally Czech Republic, so subtitles.
Yep.
However, so I was kind of worried about subtitles and 3D. It No, it was fine, and the movie in that 3D actually looked incredible. It still looks incredible minus the 3D, and it's not the obvious. It was the clever 3D where nothing necessarily jumps out. It just adds the depth to it. It just added the depth to that movie. And I think if we're talking 3D, this is why Avatar and Tron Legacy actually used it so perfectly well. Because you don't want the like a tire jumping out of out of the screen or an arrow or something where you then watch it at home on your regular TV and it doesn't look it's like, oh, that doesn't look okay, why is it there? Because in the cinema it looked great,
Yeah.
but in a it added the depth, so I have a very fond memories of watching that and I still love that movie. So
That there are definitely a few great trailers right there.
mhm.
And I feel like any Nolan trailer is gonna
Yeah.
get tons of hype. And
Hmm.
they really know how to sell his work. And
Yes.
it's so perfect. Now, a couple questions about music. So, what's your
Okay.
favorite use of a song in a film?
Mhm. So I'm not a music guy per se. Like I love music, I listen to music. However, I'm not one of them people who could name you, this is my favorite soundtrack. This is my favorite composer. Like I know composers, I know what I like, but I'm not really that kind of guy. However, so I thought of two examples. So Reservoir Dogs and Stuck in the Middle with You, because something quite interesting is happening during that scene.
There
So
certainly is. And you don't want
so
to be stuck in the middle with Mr.
mhm.
Blonde
Nope.
and sick stuff he's doing. But no, Stoker's Wheel and Stuck in the Middle with You had a completely different connotation ever since that movie
Yeah,
came out.
that's what I'm talking about. Like, and to me,
Yep.
that's what I'm talking about. Because again, as a not a music guy, I couldn't remember anything obvious. So I had to, and that was my first choice. That was my first like, oh yeah, Reservoir Dogs. And something I actually need to rewatch because I've only watched it like 15 years ago. So
Mhm.
it's definitely due for rewatch. But from a recent, and then it hit me recently, of course, such an easy pick. Under Pressure from After Sun. Like, talk about a song that's been iconic even before, right? Obviously, Queen, David
Yeah.
Bowie, two icons, right? So that song was already known. I cannot listen to Under Pressure in the same way, since I've seen After Sun. And if you've seen After Sun, you know why. Because that last scene, the ending of that movie, and what they do with that, it just gives me chills right now. Like I almost cried during it. I'm not an easy crier, but like
Mhm.
that almost got to me. And I have a feeling that Blu-ray is also on my shelf, by the way. I had to
Mhm.
buy it. I have a feeling once I rewatch it again, I'll just straight up cry because that just movie just touches you on so many ways, so many different ways and like places, and it's a good kind. It's a good kind. It's just,
Mhm.
but it's also soul crushing. It's also devastating. And Charlotte Wells needs to make more movies. I really, really, really want to see her next movie like now. I
Mhm.
cannot wait to see what she comes up with next. Like damn, like, and that's a feature debut. She's only done like some shorts before.
Mhm.
Just and that song after Under Pressure, the way how you redefine that. It's to me, I was like, fuck,
That's the thing.
cinema.
If a film can recontextualize a song for you,
Mm-hmm.
like I can hear like just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in without just seeing gutter balls from Big Lebowski in my head. It's
Mm-hmm.
like when film can do that to a song, it's
Mm-hmm.
something special.
Yes,
Like I definitely can't listen Don't Stop Me Now without seeing a bunch of people hitting zombies with pull
that's a
cues
great
because
choice. Yes.
in synchronicity it just happens that way. Now, if you were going to listen to a
Mm-hmm.
score from any film, what would you listen to?
Mm-hmm. So yet again, I'm not a guy who'd listen to movie scores per
Yep.
se. However, I have done in the past, and those I've actually listened to fully would be only few, and the most listened to that's still on my Spotify playlist, most of those songs, is Tron Legacy, because the score is done by Daft Punk.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, they no longer exist. They split up like 2, 3 years ago now.
Mhm.
So rest in peace, Daft Punk. You'll be missed. How that score, like the movie, yes, might some people might say it's mid, which is okay, fair enough. But nobody cannot tell me why that score wasn't nominated for an Oscar. Maybe it has something to do with them being famous. I have no clue. But if there was a one thing, or well, two things, if two things deserved the Oscar nomination and recognition from that movie, visuals
Yep.
and the music.
Hmm.
Like no, there's no like objectively, even my set aside my all biases, objectively speaking, visually stunning movie, and the score fits every single scene. And not only that, it's different for each piece. Just because
Yep.
it's electronic music, you might think it gets boring after. No, it doesn't get boring. There are certain themes where even now when I listen to it on Spotify, I have, oh yeah, this is this scene in a movie. Oh
Hmm.
yeah, this is that scene in a movie. It transports you into those scenes. And my other two would be weirdly enough, Angels and Demons. So Hans Zimmer.
Yep.
And I know many people don't or are kind of mad on that movie. I love it because yeah, I am just sucker for that movie, but also that score. I Correct me if I'm wrong. Hans Zimmer did all three of them, right? The Da Vinci's Code and the Inferno After.
I'm not positive. I've never watched any of them.
Oh, ooh, okay. Interesting. Damn, I stumbled upon a movie or movies Shane has not seen. I
It's interesting because I grew up in a very like Roman Catholic household,
mm, mm.
and we did not speak of that book.
I
Or
was gonna say, I remember the
it's
controversy. Yep. I was growing up, but yeah.
it was definitely not something. And then like I never heard like amazing things about them, so I never like had any like strong urge to go check them out. But I think
Mhm.
I've heard pieces of some of the music, and that's the thing. You could have, The Last Airbender be
Yep.
an atrocity of a movie, but that
Mhm.
score though, it happens.
I've only seen it once, so I cannot actually tell you about the score. I don't remember the score,
I've listened to
but
this. I've never actually watched the film.
I see, I see.
I have listened to the score though, and basically
Ah,
any Shyamalan film has a great score in it. James
yeah.
Newton Howard.
Mhm.
But
I'll
what was your
say
last
about this
one?
franchise. I'll say about this, like, the trilogy, I guess.
Yeah.
Like the first one, my mom loves. I'm kind of like, yeah, it's good. It's nice. I love the second one, and we both love the second one. I've seen that movie probably 20 times at least. Like it would play constantly in our household, right? And the score just gets you pumped. Like the score, if you listen just the score on its own, it goes through peaks and valleys. And it's like,
Mm.
it's this kind of Hans Zimmer basically because it takes place in Vatican, right? It's
Yep.
actually he goes to Vatican. So and what fascinating what Zimmer did is he took this like the Christian inspiration for the movie and he redid it. Like, or not redid it, but he kind of utilizes it to that effect. So it's great. Even minus, and I would strong like the Inferno. No, it's not a great. It's okay movie. It's just, but it's not worth your time. I would say Angels and Demons is worth your time because if for nothing else, Ewan McGregor, a Scottish guy, plays an Italian priest. Yes, not weird at all. Mamma mia. And the last one, we spoke about this before, but I just need to shout out again my boy Hans Zimmer because he's the GOAT for a reason. The Dark Knight. The
Hmm.
Dark Knight just he's made so many. You can argue he's made quite a few different ones that are like top, but Dark Knight just all the themes that became legendary since, like I think we can safely say now 16 years later, that score is legendary. Like it's awesome.
I get chills listening to like I feel so much watching that final
Mhm.
scene as he rides
Yeah.
off into that light because of
Do-do.
the dialogue and the music. Just
And
bam.
how it's just like do like how he's speeding up and you hear more and more and there's again peaks and valleys. He understands that he
Mhm.
cannot just be awesome all the time. He needs to build up. That's the build up to that. And then like when he say Dark Knight and just just
Yep.
yes, you are ready
It's
to conquer the world. Like
yeah, so good. Now, Luke, my last question for you is,
mhm.
what do you wish movies would stop doing?
So my first instinct was remakes, but then I was like, that's more of a movie industry. So like that wouldn't be fair. So my
It would
other,
count, but what?
yeah, but a movie specifically, if we because remakes will happen all the time. However, I was thinking about it and because my girlfriend and I are going through the all the Bond movies right now.
Uh-huh.
And it's a wild franchise. It's not a very consistent franchise, but
No, not
every
at all.
single yes, but what every single one of them until I think about 2000 probably two have in common, they shoot on locations, and it's always noticeable. So my kind of I wish, and I understand why they don't do, mostly saving money, saving
Yep.
that coin. But in the years where now we are, where the studios are having like record profits, they they can afford to go on that location, can afford to go to, if movie takes place in, I don't know, Bali or Cuba or wherever, it doesn't matter. Just go there. Just don't be
Well,
CGI.
that was one of the things with Tenet, why it was a $250 film was it was
Hmm.
Nolan doing Bond. And
Yep.
he's like, no, I'm going all around the world.
Yep.
And
And
that's the thing. That's one of the things that I think not enough people talk about when it
mm,
comes to James Bond films. It's like they're globe-trotting, just amazing achievements in that
hmm
way. And yeah, a lot of the James Bond movies aren't great.
yeah.
And a lot of them have not aged well.
Mm,
But that ages well. Like,
yes.
and it's no wonder that somebody like Christopher Nolan is in awe of the
Hmm.
James Bond franchise. Like, they hung a plane from a plane in License
Yep.
to Kill. Like, holy crap. And of
Mm,
course they did that in The Dark Knight Rises because of that.
yep.
But it's like that's definitely get out of the CGI blobfest. Like, look at Lord of the Rings versus The Hobbit.
hmm hmm
Such a big difference. And I don't watch honest trailers anymore, but it's like brought Peter Jackson takes you to the most beautiful green screens in all of New Zealand for The Hobbit. I'm just like,
hmm
yup. And
Hmm.
it's so noticeable. And even like I appreciate the feat what they created with this dome thing that Disney's using for Star Wars
Yeah.
shows and stuff like that, but it's still not real.
Hmm.
And I would love to see like films feeling more tactile
Like for
again.
example, from very recent memory, Argyle. Like that movie, I wasn't as low on it as many people are or were.
Mhm.
However, that yeah, like the opening sequence in what is supposed to be, I believe,
Grease,
Italy or Greece. Sorry, yes, Greece. It was like I was like, it's down south in Europe. It's Italy. No, it's Greece.
yeah,
Yes, it wasn't. It was so fucking obvious. It was a green screen, and I'm especially this the shot where Dua Lipa on a motorcycle is scooting down, and I'm
it
like,
like looks
geez,
bad.
that took me out of the movie, and it's like the first 5 minutes. Because you have Henry Cavill, you have two very attractive people, Henry and Dua Lipa, and they do their thing. And suddenly, then, and where, like, the big, massive action sequence should happen, it just kind of takes you out because it looks so bad.
It does look so bad. I really enjoyed Argyle. Like I had a lot of fun with Argyle. There's a
Yeah.
lot of problems with Argyle,
Yep.
but like I had fun. But yeah, like the start, I'm like, ooh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, this looks disgusting. It looks so bad. But
Mm-hmm.
now, Luke, I always like to
Mm-hmm.
wrap up the show by letting my guest ask me a question.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would you like to ask the Wasteland Reviewer?
Okay. So last time I asked you where would you like to travel. So this time I'll take a completely different route because
Okay,
I am a person who has had tattoos or ha still have tattoos done and planning maybe more. I know if I'm not mistaken, you don't have any tattoos, correct?
correct.
But it's not a question. So if you had to, for example, your life depended on it, what tattoo would you get? Would it be first, would it be movie related? And second, if not, or even if yes, what would you get if you had to do it?
I would get the smallest possible thing that would
Okay.
qualify to get this done because one, I am horribly afraid of needles. I
Hmm.
do not like needles.
Okay.
I have enough scars and stuff on my body. I'm like, I'm good. I don't need
Hmm.
any
Hmm.
more things on my skin. I like
Yeah.
I'm extremely adverse
Hmm.
to tattoos. But I guess what could be cool, and if I made it really small, would be
Hmm.
like the steering wheel from Fury Road.
Of course.
And just have it like tiny as hell somewhere, and that's it. Nobody
Hmm.
can see it. It's like, do you have a mole? It's like, yes, it's a mole. Get away. But no, I feel like that would be a cool thing
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
have. Or like HAL 9000, just the red eye.
Oh yeah. I've seen those done actually, and they mostly look cool, yeah.
Be creepy. I'm gonna speak for my friend Haley. She has a really cool tattoo on her back because I was there
Okay.
with her, was not watching, held
Okay.
hand, and turned to the side for moral support. But she
Yeah.
got a bamboo tree with and a bonsai tree with one of
Hmm.
the branches on fire and a quote from the road. I'm like,
Ooh.
it was cool. She's also like
Okay.
5'1". So like this took up like so much back. But coolest tattoo I know of. But
Okay.
yeah, and that's all I have to say about tattoos. But Luke, thank you so much for coming on.
Anytime, Shane, anytime.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.